Eastern State Hospital started accepting psychiatric patients not long after Washington became a state.
And there's a wonderful history around Eastern State Hospital.
For more than 125 years, staff have quietly worked at the Medical Lake campus to help patients push through mental illness and often the stigma associated with it.
The first, I think, misconception that people have about Eastern State Hospital is that it's a prison. And we don't have prisoners. Our patients are not committed to the Department of Corrections. They're committed to Eastern State Hospital for psychiatric care.
That care happens around the clock every day of every year. We don't hear much, nor do we report much about what goes on here until suddenly we do.
Philip Paul Hall is dangerous.
There was no reason for this to happen.
Confirmed the subject is in custody.
One of the cases seared into the public consciousness is the 2009 headline-grabbing escape of the man dubbed as criminally insane killer Philip Paul. Paul was on a therapeutic field trip to the Spokane County Fair when he wandered away. Paul was found not guilty by reason of insanity in the murder of a woman 22 years prior.
And people were upset.
Right. People were upset, and I understand the initial reaction of being afraid because people didn't know what was going on. But the people who did know what was going on were the doctors at the hospital who assess everyone very rigorously, are very cautious about when someone has gotten better, when medication is working.
That's attorney Andrew Biviano. He represented patients in Ross v. Inslee, a suit aimed at the Department of Health and Human Services and ultimately Eastern State and Western State hospitals. The suit maintains in the wake of the Paul escape, the reaction was punitive to all Eastern State patients, unnecessarily stripping them of their liberties.
And as a result, that we collectively punished every other patient at the hospital, even those that were doing wonderfully.
The state legislature enacted a series of new laws that restricted freedoms and slowed the release process for NGRI patients.
In 2009, things immediately changed here at the hospital.
Chad McAdder is a supervisor in Eastern's forensic unit. His work includes helping forensic patients reintegrate into society while ensuring public safety. After the Philip Paul incident, he says reintegration became monumentally more difficult, even when doctors recommended specific steps for treatment.
Patients that had court orders to allow them to go into the community on authorized leaves, either to attend AA or NA meetings, to meet with their corrections officer, to volunteer, go to school, all those were immediately put on hold. The wards were locked down. And so there was no patient movement even on the grounds.
When did you come to Eastern State?
In 2007, April 30th of 2007. And I've been here ever since.
David Wilson was committed here more than 10 years ago for a serious crime.
I burned a house, a neighbor's house. I set it on fire, so that's what brought me here.
Do you think people have a hard time wrapping their heads around the fact that that guy can get better?
That is the main question. People have a hard time believing that someone with mental illness can get better. And that's what I hope this story and other media outlets can educate people on the fact that that is not true. People get better all the time and completely better.
Because when I came here, I wasn't anywhere near like I am now. I wouldn't have been able to do an interview like this 10 years ago. I would have been so scared. But now I've learned ways to communicate effectively and be able to share my feelings and emotions in a positive way.
Do you get to take trips off campus often?
No, not at the present moment.
If David had been sent to jail for his crime, his time served likely would have been long over.
The irony of this is that people who are found guilty and are in jail or prison, they have a reoffense rate of close to 75% because the conditions that cause them to commit crimes are usually the same or worse when they get out. People who are released after not guilty of reason of insanity, after treatment, have a reoffense rate of less than 1%. And that's because the conditions that caused it are gone.
The hospital appears to be making strides in response to what the Ross settlement demands. The average length of stay for a forensic patient at Eastern dropped from 239 days in 2014 to 113 last year. That's not to say people are now being released prematurely. Eastern insists their experts are always evaluating whether the risk of release is too great.
And many people recover completely and are able to function fully in the community.
Studies show careful release planning, which includes trips off campus, helps lead to extremely low rates of forensic patients committing another crime.
People here need a chance.
Simply put, that's better for the community and less shocking to patients like David, whose point of reference to the public dates back 10 years.
When you think about when you came here in 2007, do you ever think about how much has changed in the world outside?
It's huge changes. There's so many different things that have changed. Like when I came here, people didn't even have iPhones. You know, now everybody has cell phones, and it's like a way of life now. And just things like that. You know, people here don't, most people don't know how to use a cell phone.
Under the Ross settlement, Eastern is striving to get patients back to that place where they're reintegrated to society through more trips into the community before a full release.
And we're getting back to what we had done pre-2009. For example, we used to be able to take patients on staff escort activities, and those are just starting to we're starting to get those privileges back for the patients.
Nobody likes a lawsuit, but the Ross settlement is one the staff at Eastern largely believes pushes everyone to a better place.
Is the care you're providing now better than it was a couple of years ago?
You know, patient care is a continual improvement journey. And I would say that yes, it continues to get better. It's better now than it was 2 years ago, and it'll be better in 2 years than it is today.
We are just as normal as anybody else. Yes, we did a crime, and we're here because of it, but that doesn't mean we can't get better and progress through the steps and earn privileges like community reintegration, learn to actually become an active member of society again.
And there is a hearing scheduled for January for all the parties of the Ross settlement to check in to see if both Eastern and Western state hospitals are complying with the agreed upon changes. Now, this is an unfunded mandate, so the hospitals have to figure out how to do it without any additional funding.
You pointed out in your story, but it's this balancing act, right, between public safety and patient rights. And I think for a lot of folks in the public, they have a hard time with that aspect of it.
Oh, for sure, and that's what this story is all about. But the experts at Eastern say we're the ones who are trained to know the risks,
Sure.
and we are spending time with these people every day. And that's not to say everybody should get out, because not everybody should get out.
Right.
But it's that some people are being held longer than they should be.
Right.
So.
Well, the more we can strive to improve this, the better for everybody.
Yeah, for sure, exactly.
All right, thank you, Jane.